I'm glad there's not hundreds of kids there. I would be very, very nervous.
Hi, my name is Ben Harlander, and today we welcome a heavily decorated UFC champion, a former UFC middleweight champion, a former Cage Rage light heavyweight champion, the Ultimate Fighter 3 heavyweight tournament winner, the first British fighter to win a UFC championship, and a member of the UFC Hall of Fame. He is a sports commentator, actor, entrepreneur, host to the Believe You Me podcast, which I see in the background, and a family man. Welcome, Michael, the Count Bisping. Thank you for being here.
Wow, that is an incredible introduction. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to talk with you. And I'm a little bit nervous. Normally, in my day-to-day career, I'd be inside an octagon fighting people, but this is way more nerve-wracking for me.
Well, I'm sure you'll do fantastic.
Thank you.
So I have the first question.
Go ahead.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you. So who inspired you to be who you are today? And who are you grateful for in your life that helped you to make it to where you are now?
Thank you very much for the question. Who inspired me? So when I was younger, I always enjoyed martial art movies, combat sports movies. I was a big fan of the Rocky movies. Maybe you guys are a little too young to know them, but the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. I don't know if you're aware of the actor, the martial arts actor. When I was a child, I saw the film Kickboxer. My dad bought it for me on VHS tape. You guys definitely don't know what VHS is, but my dad bought me the movie Kickboxer for my 10th birthday. Probably wasn't a suitable movie for a 10-year-old, but still, I enjoyed it very much. And yeah, I just wanted to really get into martial arts. Fortunately, very close to me, there was a Japanese jiu-jitsu gym. And Japanese jiu-jitsu encompasses all the martial arts, actually. They say it's the oldest martial art, and all the martial arts were taken from Japanese jiu-jitsu. So I started studying that, and I became obsessed, to be quite frankly. It's quite frank. I was just totally obsessed with it. So that's kind of what inspired me to get into martial arts. And who do I have to thank? I think was the next question. Certainly my mother and my father. My father, when I was younger, he would support me. He would drive me all over the country. He would take me to tournaments and things like that. As I got older and I decided to do this for a living and compete professionally, certainly my wife. My wife gave up her dreams to support me and to support my children and give them the best life possible. I wouldn't be here having this conversation if it wasn't for my parents and certainly my wife, who I'm forever grateful to.
Hello. So my question is, what's the importance of fitness during a pandemic?
Was that the importance of fitness during a pandemic? Yeah, sorry, it was a bit of a bad line there. Well, thank you for your question. And to be honest, I think fitness is important, whether it's a pandemic or not. You know, fitness is very, very important. You have to realize in life, you get one body. This is your total possession. You own it. You are responsible for it. Nobody else. So you have to take care of your body. Now, of course, during a pandemic, fitness was linked to mental health as well. So, you know, if you're working out, if you feel good about yourself, when you work out in the morning, you release endorphins. It gives you a charge. It makes you feel good. And I find that when I work out in the morning, I'm way more productive with my days. You know, I stay busier. I'm not just sitting on the couch feeling sorry for myself. But as I say, whether it's a pandemic or not, you know, you get one body. You want to feel good. You want to look good. And you want to be healthy. Of course, looking healthy is great, but you want to be healthy on the inside. As I say, you're all youngsters right now. So, you know, your bodies are all fine and healthy. But as you get older, the choices that you make today will have effects in later life. So remember, you know, you only get one body and you have to take care of it and look after it as your most prized possession.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
It was a great pleasure to meet you. I'm going to start with my question. Actually, it's a multiple part question. So in your opinion, how does physical health and fitness affect emotional and mental health?
Ooh, these are tough questions. It's a very, very good question. So how does physical health affect mental health? Was that the question?
Yeah, physical health and fitness affect emotional and mental health.
Yeah, well, again, like I said a moment ago, they kind of go hand in hand. You know, of course, what goes on in the mind can't always be affected by fitness. But certainly, you know, if we're talking about depression and things like that, I find, and studies show, and many articles that I read, and certainly in my own life as well, I find that if I exercise, I feel good about myself. And when you feel good, you know, a lot of the other problems, they kind of fall away, or you kind of realize them for what they are. Sometimes a lot of the problems that you have in life, if you can step back away out of that situation, you realize that maybe it's not the biggest problem in the world and maybe you can handle it. But if you allow yourself to get weighed down by these negative emotions, then of course it all feels like the world is falling down around you, and you start to think that you know, things are really, really bad, things are terrible. So I find staying in shape, working out, releasing endorphins, it puts a smile on my face, it sets me up for the day, I feel good, and I want to go out there and I want to, you know, I want to make things happen, you know. And when I don't work out, I feel like I'm going to be lazy. And then sometimes I don't eat good food, you know, because if I work out in the morning, then I want to make sure I don't undo all that damage. So I work out good and then I eat well. If I don't work out, then I don't eat well. I'll get a cheeseburger or whatever it is. I'll be going to the chocolate cupboard, you know, so it all goes hand in hand. But certainly for mental health and positivity and feeling good, I think it's very, very important.
Do you think physical activity is important for students to do better in school? If so, how?
Yeah, well, again, it kind of goes back to what I just said, because, you know, when you do work out, it's, of course, it charges the body, but it charges the mind, and it wakes you up, and it truly gets you thinking, and it just kickstarts everything, in my opinion. And of course, you guys are at school and you've got your studies to do. And if you're starting your day in a positive manner, if you're getting out of bed, you feel good, have a healthy breakfast, have a nice workout, I mean, that's starting the day in the best way possible. So of course, if you start your day in the best way possible, you're going to go to school, you're going to do well, or you should do well. And obviously you still have to apply yourself. You know, you get out what you put in everything in life. You will only see good results if you put in hard work. So start your day right, get a good little workout in if you have time. But of course, when you get to school, you got to study, you got to pay attention, and do your absolute best at all times.
So finally, do you think it can help? As a result, you think it can help young people who are dealing with self-esteem issues, anxiety, or depression?
I'm sorry, it was a little bit of a bad line. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, sorry. And finally,
It's okay.
It can help young people who are dealing with self-esteem issues, anxiety, and depression?
Yes, of course. I mean, self-esteem issues. I mean, there could be a variety of reasons why somebody has low self-esteem, but you know, sometimes, you know, working out or staying in shape isn't the answer to everything, but you do feel good about yourself. You know, if you're having an active day, you know, but just being active, it doesn't mean you have to go to the gym. It doesn't mean you have to lift weights or go for a run. Maybe you just take the dog for a walk. Maybe you just, you know, you do some chores around the house or whatever, but just staying active, having an active body, you'll have an active mind. And then, you know, because if you're just sitting around being not being lazy, but, you know, kind of feeling sorry for yourself, you get into this cycle. You know, and before you know it, you don't feel good about yourself. You don't like the reflection in the mirror, and it feels like the whole world's crashing down. And like, what am I doing here? But if you try and stay active, and as I say, it doesn't mean you don't have to go for a run. You can take the dog for a walk. You can go to the park. You can do whatever it is. So you know, by staying active, it keeps the mind active and hopefully helps with all the things that you asked about.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay, next question. Very nice.
Hi, sir. So my question was, can you explain to kids how doping and steroids has affected sports and why it's important for you to stay clean and play fair?
Yeah, okay, great question. I mean, of course, if you take steroids or you're taking any kind of performance enhancing drugs, the reality is that you're cheating. You're cheating your opponents, you're cheating the sport, and ultimately you're cheating yourself, you know, because those results that you earned supposedly, you cheated your way to get that. And maybe one day you look at yourself in the mirror and you think, okay, maybe I won that race or whatever it was, but I truly didn't deserve to. Now, of course, never mind all that kind of things. Cheating in sport, it goes against the very essence of sport. Sport is supposed to be about the human body pushing yourself to the absolute limit and see who can be the best. So if you want to go out and take steroids or performance enhancing drugs, then, it just goes against the entire essence of sport, as I said. Now, of course, all that aside, it's damaging to the human body. We see a lot of bodybuilders. In bodybuilding, there's a history of performance-enhancing drugs used because they get these gigantic muscles. You see them having strokes. You see them having heart attacks. There's so many issues that go along with performance-enhancing drugs. Now, of course, also, depending on the sport, in my sport, which was a combat sport, of course, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and then in boxing, the objective of that sport is to win the fight. You're not trying to kick a ball into a net. You're not trying to play basketball or whatever it is. You're trying to win a fight against your opponent. So if you're taking performance-enhancing drugs, then there's a good possibility that you might injure your opponent in a serious manner. I myself, I've always been a strong advocate for anti-doping in all sports. I had a fight in 2013 in Brazil, and I fought this man called Vitor Belfort, and he had a long history of taking performance-enhancing drugs. But still, I took the fight, and I got kicked in the head. And believe it or not, this eye right here is a fake eye. I can take that out right now and show you. I won't do it because you'll all freak out and it's disgusting. But as I say, it's a fake eye. I'm blind in one eye. And now it's a long time ago. That was in 2013. But I had many years of pain and mental suffering and anxiety and self-esteem issues, all the things that we just talked about, to be honest, because I didn't like the way I looked. If I take out this fake lens, it looks a little weird, but I got used to it in the end. So what I'm trying to say is that, for many, many different reasons, if you're ever tempted to try and take the shortcut, don't do it. You want to earn it. Just like anything in life, you want to be responsible for anything good that happens. You want to earn it. You don't want to take shortcuts. You don't want to cheat the system.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
So, my assigned question was, do you admire and respect athletes who rise to the top even with a handicap or some other type of challenge in their life?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll tell you a little story. My brother, he was in the army. And unfortunately, he got injured whilst he was in the army. I won't go into details because it might give you nightmares. But he became almost blind, like 99% blind, and he has a lot of like epileptic fits, and he has memory problems. He's in a bad way. It's very unfortunate. But he never complained, never felt sorry for himself, and actually, he got on the British team for shot put and discus, and he was heading to the Olympics for the Paralympics, and I was just so inspired by him. As I say, he didn't feel sorry for himself. I'm sure he had his dark days, of course, but he rebuilt himself, and he didn't feel sorry for himself. He refused to allow himself to become a victim, and he went out there and started competing in shot put and discus. And I was so blown away by the strength and the courage that he showed. And it really inspired me. And it was part of the reason why I turned professional as a fighter, because he made me realize you only get one life and you want to make the best of it. And whether that's being an athlete, whether you have a disability or not, whether it's being an entrepreneur, maybe whatever it is in life, we all have a skill. I truly believe every one of us, every one of you children watching this, we all have a skill, and only you know what that is, and that skill can take you where you want to go in life, regardless of what it is. I don't know what your skills are, but whatever that skill is, realize what it is, figure out how far that skill can take you, and then you got to do the hard work. Nothing comes easy in life. Anything worth having, you got to work for. And in anything, you always start at the bottom. When I started becoming a professional fighter, I wasn't fighting on TV. I wasn't getting paid good money. I was fighting in some like little dingy, smoky halls with about 100 people there. I got paid nothing for my first professional fight. but that's how it goes. In anything in life, you start to work your way up. And certainly, people with disabilities to compete in sports, I just think it's a beautiful thing, and they will forever have my respect.
Sorry. It's a pleasure to meet you. My question is, do you have advice for young people who are thinking they want to go into sports for a living or even fighting for a living?
Okay. Advice to people going into fighting or sports. Try and keep it on the sports. Fighting is a tough business, but still, if you do, good luck. The first thing I would say is that you've got to enjoy it, right? That is the first thing. Just because you are good at something, if you don't enjoy it, I'm not saying don't do it, but if you enjoy it, you're going to enjoy the process a lot more. You're going to be passionate about it. You're going to give it your all. And it's not going to feel like work, because being a professional athlete, it's a very blessed life, but it's still considered work. You still have to be disciplined. You still have to get out of bed. You got to go to the training sessions. You got to do everything you can. And if you don't enjoy it, then, it's going to become a chore. It's going to be laborsome. You're just not going to have a good time. So first of all, do it if you enjoy it. Secondly, get a good manager. Always need a good manager, and don't sign contracts until you have a lawyer look them over. Trust me, I learned that a very, very hard and painful way. Contracts always need to be looked at by a manager. Find yourself a good team, push yourself to the limit every time you train, really go for it, and realize that if you have a dream, you can achieve it. I come from a very, very small town in the north of England. And when I decided I was going to become a professional fighter, a lot of people laughed at me, because nobody had done that where I'm from. People thought I was being foolish. I had children at the time. People thought I was being selfish, but I still took that risk. I quit my job and I did everything I could to make it a success. And now those people that were laughing, well, they're not laughing now, because I made it a reality. And of course, it wasn't easy. It was hard work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But I got there eventually.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Hi, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you. So what other special causes do you fight for now?
Whatever special causes. I thought these were going to be easy questions. That's a very, very tough question. Well, of course, what do I fight for? Well, equality. That's obviously a big one. Equal rights for everybody on the planet. Just a healthy society. We've got to take care of this planet as well. I'm very active about that. I believe that we need to make sustainable changes so this planet doesn't continue to go on the decline. These are causes that are very important to me. And right now, I have 3 children to raise as well. They take up a lot of my time. And I'm still involved with the UFC, of course, and always trying to give back, always trying to, do what I can to help out other people.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Hi, my name is Peter, and my question was, what gives you joy and motivation in your life? But I kind of want to know, what gives you joy and motivation, right now and during these times?
To be honest, through the pandemic, I've still been very busy. I commentate for the UFC, and the UFC it just never stops. It was almost a fight every weekend. But what brings me joy? Obviously, when I was competing, I very much enjoyed that. But now I'm retired. What brings me joy? Taking my son fishing in the afternoon or in the morning. That brings me joy. Spending time with my children or my wife. Just hanging out. Just spending quality time with friends and family. Obviously, seeing my parents. I live in America now, so I don't get to see my family as much. But speaking with my parents and things like that, and training young fighters. I like to go down to the gym and pass on my knowledge to other people. So that's always fun. It's always inspiring to see that. What else? What brings me joy? Eating good food.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Since you've been a fighter, and you have had to fight to get your respect in your life, do you feel we also all need to fight for a better world and for a better planet?
Sorry, my friend, can you just repeat that one more time?
Since you've been a fighter and you've had to fight to get your respect in your life, do you feel we also all need to fight for a better world and for a better planet?
Great question. And of course, the short answer is yes. You know, I mean, we only, as I said, we only get one, not only for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren, and for all the planet, for all the animals and life that is on this planet. Unfortunately, human beings have done a little bit of damage to the planet over the last 50 years, but now we're making changes. We're bringing in electric vehicles. You know, I think in some states of America and some countries, they're hoping by like the year 2030 to have all electric vehicles. That's going to be a massive, massive change. It's going to eradicate a lot of the pollution that the human beings are doing. And whether it's electric vehicles or whether it's using less energy, whether it's, you know, using, taking care of your litter and recycling, we all got to make these little efforts. If we all make small little changes and little efforts, then we're going to guarantee that the health of this planet for future generations to come. And it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. And I don't understand why some people don't seem to care, because it's a big, big issue in this world. And, you know, if you look at it and you see the polar ice caps, they're melting at an astonishing rate. You know, we can undo all of the damage that has been done. You know, the science is there. I've seen many documentaries where they talk about it. The planet is an incredible thing and will heal itself, but we have to help the planet help itself. And that, as I say, that'll start with all those little changes in our lifestyle.
Yeah. So one of the questions, Michael, that I was wondering, coming back from a big loss, how did believing in yourself help you succeed? The feeling of belief. Yeah,
that's actually a really good question. In 2009, I fought a gentleman called Dan Henderson, and he was a very well-known fighter. And this was on the biggest UFC event that they'd ever put on. It was called UFC 100, and it was a historic event. And I went out there, I was a lot younger, and we were talking, you know, and I was very confident I was going to win the fight. And I went out there and I got knocked out, okay? And I got knocked out really, really badly. I was unconscious for a long time. And everybody laughed at me and everybody made fun. And everybody said he doesn't deserve to be in this sport. And people said he will never, ever recover. In fact, even the commentator for the UFC at the time said he will never recover from that. You can't get knocked out that bad and then come back. And that is actually true for some people, you know, but it's all in the mind. The mind is a very, very powerful tool, and it can overcome most things. So for me, after that fight, you know, the belief that I had in myself, the belief that my wife, my children, my coaches, that obviously was very important to me. They all still believed in me, but more importantly, I believed in me. Now, when I lost that fight, I went back and I looked at the tape of why that happened. And this is, you know, obviously a lot of people watching this aren't fighters, but we all make mistakes in life, you know, and you got to try and not make the same mistakes time and time again. You know, mistakes are good if you learn from the mistakes. If you continue to make mistakes, then you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble, or find yourself getting knocked out again, like I would have done. But I looked at the tape and I reviewed what I was doing wrong. And then obviously I made some changes in my preparation, made some changes in how I prepared for a fight. And I made some mental changes. You know, I used to, because fighting is such a physical sport, I used to go out there and try and wind myself up. I used to try and get angry, you know, because I'm fighting, you know, and if I'm angry, I'm going to be a better fighter, which isn't the case. I learned after a long time that is not the case at all. If you're angry, if you're in a frantic state of mind, you're never the best version of yourself. I mean, think of your teachers here. I mean, if the teachers walk in and they're all mad and they're all angry, you know, you're like, oh God, I don't like this teacher here, or he's not doing a very good job. If you're trying to do your homework, you know, and you're angry and you're mad and you're arguing with your friends, you're not doing a good job. And it doesn't matter what it is in any part of life. If you're angry, if you're stressed out, you're not the best version of yourself. I learned to be calm when I go out there to fight, which is crazy because you think it's a fight. But if you're fighting the best people in the world and you're angry, you can't react in the correct way. So you have to be cool, calm, collected, because the mind controls everything, right? And the mind won't be performing to its fullest ability if you are stressed out, if you are angry, if you are frantic, if you are emotional. So always trying to stay calm, be nice and level-headed. And sorry, I forgot what the question was, because I've been talking for so long. Coming back from a knockout, ultimately believing
Dan
in
Henderson.
yourself.
Yeah, coming back from
Dan
the
Henderson. There you go. That's the damage. He knocked me out, and now I forget things.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another. I have another here. Conceive, believe, and achieve. What does this all mean?
Okay, so that was a line. And to be honest, you should conceive, believe, and achieve. Because as I say, I believe, if you have a plan and you know what you're going to do, so that's the conceive part. Then you're going to believe in yourself, and then you got to achieve. So you got to go out there and actually achieve it. Okay, it's all well and good having a plan and thinking about it, but then you got to go out there and do the hard work. You can think you have the talent, you can think of the idea, but unless you actually get off your backside and go and do the work, it's not going to happen. Now, so as I say, that is a very, very good line, and it is true. But when I had a press conference against one of my opponents, and it was for the world title, sometimes when you're having press conferences and you're gonna fight, you give each other a hard time. And he was saying that, so I was making fun out of him. But it's all in fun and games. You see, when you're fighting, and you see fighters and they're talking to one another, and it looks like they're insulting one another, they do that a little bit. But the idea behind it is that you're trying to affect the confidence of your opponent. Right? Because it's all mind games. It's all psychological. As I said, the mind controls everything. So if the person that you're fighting isn't confident, if the person that you're fighting doesn't believe in themselves, then they're not going to fight with the best of their ability. And in some ways, you've already won that fight, because mentally they're beaten, they're broken. And as I say, okay, that's for a fighting atmosphere, but that actually crosses over into a lot of everyday life.
Mr. Bisping, what made you want to become a wrestling champion, and how can you explain to young people to become champions like you?
Well, thank you for the question. So when I was a kid, when I was your age, as I said earlier, I was kind of obsessed with martial arts, and I really enjoyed it, and I loved it, and it brought me a lot of happiness and joy. However, because I was so obsessed with martial arts, I wasn't paying attention at school. Now, this sounds like me lecturing you all, but you have to pay attention at school. One of my biggest regrets in life, and I'm not just saying this, I swear to you, and I say it all the time, one of my biggest regrets in life was not applying myself at school. Because you're at school and you think it's all great and you think, it's whatever. And I heard of a job that I could get when I was 16 years old. It was going to pay me £120 a week. And I left school at 16 and I thought I was all smart. And I got this job and it was paying £120 a week. But you soon come to realize that £120 a week does not go very far when you get into the big world. And guess what? There's not much call for unskilled, unqualified 16-year-olds. So I was doing a string of dead-end jobs, one after the other, minimum wage, cold factories, starting work at 6 a.m., finishing work at 6 p.m., not seeing the daylight, miserable, tired, angry, depressed, and broke because they didn't pay much money. And then I got children. I met my wife. We had children. And again, I was like, wow, is this what my life came to? And my boss at work, he said to me, he said, Michael, he said, you seem like a pretty smart kid. He said, so, is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? And I said, no, with respect, I don't want to do this for another day. And he said, well, give it some thought, because I was only 21 at the time. So he said, give it some thought, have a think about it, and try and make those changes. So I had to think about it, and I thought, and I came back to martial arts. And I spoke to my old sensei, my instructor, and he told me all about the explosion of the UFC, and there was money to be made. And I remember I went into work one day and I said to my boss, he was called Mick. I said, hey, Mick, I figured it out. I know what I'm going to do. And he puts his tools down and he walks over and he's like, come on, tell me, And he thought I was going to say, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to go to university, I'm going to study to be a doctor or whatever. And I said, I'm going to be a professional fighter. And he was like, oh my word, this guy, I thought you were smart. You're an idiot. I was like, no, hold on. I have experience. So that's kind of how I, decided to do that. And then from there, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of sacrifice. But as I said, you have to make sacrifices if you want to earn anything in life. I moved away to another city and I worked hard, and it took about 3 years, I think, to make it to the UFC. And then from there, I think it took another 10 or 11 years to actually become the champion. And it was a long, long road, many ups, many downs, but it was enjoyable and I have zero regrets. And I have some fantastic memories.
Mr. Bisping, will you agree to write a little something for our charity book that you're releasing called Coast to Coast?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever you need, consider it done. More than happy to do that. Yes, please. Yeah, I'll get that to you as soon as possible.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ben?
Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. Your kind words, your motivational speeches, your advice, it'll greatly impact our youth. And I'm sure they're going to remember this for a long time to come. Good luck on all your future endeavors. Continuing with the podcast, the hosting, all your exciting things that we see you at today. And don't be a stranger with us. Thanks again. And if you'd ever want to come back, we'd be more than happy to have you.
If you could introduce him, if we get the interview with him and you would come back to say, hello, I'm Michael Bisping. This is Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I would absolutely love to. Yeah, no, I would. I would love to do that. So please, reach out via email. And when the time is right, we'll make it happen. Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening to me go on and on and on, listening to a little bit of my story. All you youngsters out there, have a dream, go for it. You can do anything in this life if you put your mind to it. And on that note, I'll shut up and let you get on with your day. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Everyone say goodbye. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye.
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 Take care.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much, Michael. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.